Love. Hi, my name is Lust, and today I would like for you to get to know me better, to read between the lines because this is not a simple letter. You see, first I whisper in your ear and plant thoughts in your head, then wait for them to grow. So instead of thinking of God, you think of me instead. With all your five senses, I deceive and appeal. With the help of my friends, I break you down so you'll kneel. Music being the closest of them all, I amuse you. While you bother your head, you entertain my plans to bruise you. My plans to get to your heart to poison and break through all the goodness that you have and take possession. Maybe one day you'll learn your lesson. I'm my best friend, alcohol. You see, while you're chugging it down, I'm controlling you like a doll, laughing. Because once again, I made you fall. On the outside, I'm as beautiful as fireworks. Yes, fireworks. Because once you see me, I make your insides burst and automatically make you think that I can quench your thirst. Moving my body like a snake, you put your hands on my hips. My spirit like a serpent goes around your neck and gets a tight grip. Making sure you begin to lose oxygen, you become reliant on me. Unaware that I will strangle you through my lies and deceit. Today, I really want you to understand that my name is Lust, not love. We're not the same. It's like calling a pigeon a dove. And you see, this makes me so angry because I don't get credit when it's due. They're always blaming heartbreak and broken relationships on love, but that's not true. It's me. Yes, thank you. It's me. I'm the one who makes you feel it's not crucial to wait until you're married. I'm the one who gives you extra baggage, the one that millions of others have carried. I'm the one who blocks you from your true love and put chains on your heart until you're buried. I'm the one, me, the one who never wants you to be free. So I remind you, don't mistake me with love. Because for one, I despise the one above. He's everything that I'm not and the very thing I try to imitate. With his holiness and his divine glory, he captivates. I can't stand it. It aggravates me. Because unlike him, your best interest is not on my mind. In a good heart, I have nothing of a kind. I'm lust and I just want a few things from you. Your virginity, heart, eyes, mouth, wait, I'm not through. Your love, family, hopes, dreams, souls, cares, and basically your whole crew. I don't love, I don't care. Pain is what I want you to bear, and I'm happy that life's not fair, so I can do what I want. And convict me, I wish somebody would dare. Sin is my plot and destruction is my execution. I'm your death sentence and church to me is like pollution, because prayer and repentance is the solution. But do you know I can tell you this and not be afraid? Because simply, everybody wants to get laid. So you see, I win every time and I play you like a game because you're mine. And I target you all whether you're ugly or fine. And I send you so many red flags to give you a sign that I am lust and I just want my props. I've done so much in the world and played with so many like props. I am lust. And get away from me, I'd like to see you try. I'll make sure that it's hard to say goodbye. So, now that you know who I really am and I've shown you a little look inside, when I come to tempt you, let's see what's really up there in that place you would like to call a mine. But you see, that's the thing. I'm not only in your mind, but I'm in your heart also. I couldn't tempt you if you didn't want to be tempted in the first place, so the choice is yours. You can choose love, the one who actually cares about your core, or me. So what's it going to be? Annoyed to say that the truth will set you free.
my brethren, be strong in the Most High, and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of Yah, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to stand and withstand in the evil day. And having done all to stand, stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, take the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of the Most High Yah.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 1.
Set Apart family and the Most High Yah, welcome to another Sword of the Spirit audio broadcast teaching. We are your hosts, the servants of Yah. Psalms 93:1. Yah reigns. He is clothed with majesty. Yah is clothed with strength. He girded himself, and the world is established. It shall not be shaken. So for those of you who are taking part in today's Set Apart Day that he established since even before the beginning of creation, we welcome you to our 120th audio broadcast teaching. We greet you in the name of our Abba Yah and our Master, Yeshua HaMashiach. With that being said, going to bring in my co-host, Shabbat Shalom, sis. How are you?
Shabbat Shalom, sis. I'm doing well today. You know, yesterday I was under the weather, and I'm feeling a lot better.
Look, it be every week. It be something going on with you. We're going to have to build your immune system up because it be something every week. That's probably what it is.
They don't know how to cover their mouth, you know, and you know, parents send them to school sick because they got to go to work and they don't want to take off. And so they send them to school and then they affect us.
Yes, they infect us. Like,
yes,
we're infected.
Yes. When my kids were sick, I kept them home because I know how I feel.
Yeah,
but you know, nowadays, I get it, you know, because some parents don't have babysitters and different things. But and it's still,
or maybe a job thing or something like that. Maybe afraid they're gonna get fired or something.
Yes.
Yeah, but the best thing for their child and everyone else around them is to leave them at home, because when you bring sick children to school, now we're going to have more. It's kind of like that example I always use, one rotten apple.
Yes.
You know, if you leave that rotten apple in the bag, by the end of the week, the other ones are affected by it. And so it goes the same way. You know, when you have children, if they're sick, then, you know, as much as you want, and we all understand, because I've been there, but, you know, you can't take them to school because, you know, they're going to, you know, pass or spread whatever it is they have on to others. You know, they don't close. You know, kids don't cover their mouths, and you know, they're touching everything, and so. So for all you parents out there, if you got any sick babies, leave them at home. Don't bring them. So let us
the older we get, the harder it is to fight off. So.
It's definitely like we're not spring chickens anymore, okay? So it does take us a little bit longer to fight them off, but let's get right into our 120th audio broadcast.
All right.
Which is entitled "The Lust of the Flesh, the Eyes, and the Pride of Life." And so I was led to do today's message. I actually had something else, as I always do, Prina, that I say I'm going to do.
Yes.
But then Yah, you know, directs me, you know, onto a different path, and that's kind of what happened with this lesson: the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. And I said this, you know, a lot recently. You know, because I post a lot, share the truth for y'all's word, but I've been sharing a lot lately how we live in a world that is not only baptized in filth, but we're saturated in sin, and this world is just like pigs rolling around in the mud, happy to be in the mud, don't want to be cleaned off, and they're exalting themselves. They're unclean, and they have no idea that they're unclean. And so today's message is coming from 1 John chapter 2, verse 16, which explicitly warns us that all, and I say that all, meaning bold and cap, all that is in the world is the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. Hence, it's the very reason why none of us can say I've never sinned. Because if no one has sinned, then there would have been no need for our Messiah, Yeshua, to come. So all has fallen short and have sinned. And none of us are exempt. No one is exempt from sinning. And one of these, I call these the three temptations of sin: the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. None of us have been exempt from being led into sin, at least by one or more of these temptations. And some of us, we've been led astray by all three. However, once we make the decision that we're going to truly begin to serve Yah, because a lot of us, we're in church every Sunday. Well, I'm not in church, but for those of us who are considering themselves to be servants and followers of the Bible and believers and want to see the kingdom, those that say they care about what happens to their soul when they leave this earth, at some point, you're going to have to make a decision, because you can't be on both sides of the fence. So when you truly make the decision to serve the Most High Yah, at some point, at what point is the question I want to pose is, at what point do you overcome these temptations, the temptations of the flesh, the eyes, and the pride of life? And how do you overcome them? Because we can't continue. We know that we're in the world, but he's told us that although we're in the world, we're not to be of it. So at what point, because guess what? These temptations are not going anywhere. They're going to be here. So at what point do you who say that you're a believer, at what point should you overcome, or at what point do you feel that you'll overcome these temptations? And so today we're going to engage in an in-depth study on these three temptations of sin, and then we're going to talk about later at the end, before closing out, how to overcome them. And I also want to expose Satan and remove the covering on how he hides in a lot of these temptations and how they play themselves out in our daily lives. Because a lot of times we don't see a lot of these things being played out. And even as I was preparing today's message, it was just like some things that were brought just from me doing the word study, and I can't wait to share that on Pride. You know how I love doing my word study. And just Pride itself, I think we're all, my prayer is that by the end of this lesson that we will all take a greater look at ourselves and to examine ourselves, as the scripture says, to make sure that we are not allowing the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life to play out in any area of our lives. Maybe these were areas, and I'm going to be honest, I can't wait. I'm excited about getting to the word study, especially with pride, because there were some things I'm like, wow, like I really didn't know that. I mean, Satan is really hiding. So we're going to remove that covering today, and this lesson is not to pinpoint anyone, but it's for all of us, and myself included, to take a look at ourselves and to examine ourselves and to make our salvation sure. And we don't ever want to get too haughty and think, oh, well, I've arrived and I'm good. No, I'm not going to be good until I hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. And that's when, you know what I'm saying? And so I don't want to ever to think, oh, I did these many sword and spirit shows. He ain't going to care. If I'm not living right, he going to be telling me and my show to go right over there to the lake where everybody... with everybody else that was new to word and didn't do it. So, you know, we got to really be careful about that. So before we get into the teaching, because today we're not having a state of the body panel discussion like we normally do, because I want to have enough time to teach today's lesson, and so we'll resume with that part of our teaching or broadcast next Sabbath when we do. Also, we won't be back next week as well. We will not be back next week. So I don't have a calendar in front of me. I believe, I don't know which is. I think it's the first Sabbath in November is when we will be back. Mm-hmm. I think it's the first Sabbath in November. So whenever you do find it, maybe at the end of the broadcast, and we can announce it. But I believe that's because I think it's Friday the 3rd.
Yes, Friday is the 3rd.
Okay, so it's the 4th. So it's Saturday, November 4th is when we will have our next teaching, because I will be on vacation next week, and my service that I have, I will not be able to conduct the broadcast with this service because it's not going to allow me to even call in, and so we will again conduct our next audio broadcast teaching on Saturday, August the 4th. And so before we get into today's 120th teaching, I want to recap last week's 119th teaching for anyone who missed it. It was entitled Go and Sin No More. We know it's coming from John chapter 8, verses, and particularly 10 and 11. But if you read verses 1 through 11, it's the classic story where the woman was caught in adultery, and the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the scribes and the Pharisees, they wanted to stone this woman to death because they said she was caught in the act of adultery. And so Yeshua used the words, go and sin no more in John 8, verse 11. And unfortunately, many have used this particular scriptural verse to teach that if a person confesses their sins and they're forgiven, that they can continue in unrepentant sin with impunity. And so we see a lot of this going on in the Christian churches now. He don't pay it at all. You can't do no more wrong. So they think that the redemptive work that was done on the stake or the tree, that was the end of it. So therefore, nothing else that you do after that, no future sins, are attached to you. You're not responsible for that because of what he did in the past. But it's like, even when you married her, it's like, okay, you've done that 5 years ago. What have you done for me lately? You know what I'm saying? It's not about what you've done in the past, but he's going to be judging you on what you have done up until that time when he returns. And so many are using this scripture along with their flawed system of grace to continue in unrepentant sin and then still think like the foolish virgins because them being unprepared, that they're going to enter into the kingdom. And so this was a very good teaching. Please go back and listen to this story. There was a very strong message in that particular scriptural verse. It was deeper than what people think. When he told her, go and sin no more, there was a message that was there, and it also was symbolic of something that he would do in the future for us. And so if you missed our 119th teaching, Go and Sin No More, please go back and check that out. And comment, via YouTube on the channel after watching the show, after listening to the lesson, and let us know what you think and, what you learned. We love the feedback. And I, thank everyone who continues to support us and who continues to comment on YouTube and comment after the show is uploaded. We thank you, and we just pray that we will continue to be a blessing to you and that Yah will use us to bring forth souls to his kingdom because it's all about him. It's not about us. And so I want to go ahead and get right into today's 120th audio broadcast teaching, which, again, is entitled The Lust of the Flesh, the Lust of the Eyes, and the Pride of Life. And so, just starting off, there is a warfare that is going on, and it's going on in three fronts. And those three fronts contain the three temptations of sin, and I talked about this, when we first, at the top of the broadcast, the 3 temptations of sin, and that would be the lust of the flesh. And you definitely want to take notes for today's teaching, because in order for you to go back and examine, a lot of times we need to be able to reflect. And so it's kind of hard to reflect when we don't have anything in front of us. And so if you're listening, take notes so that you can go back because we're going to break down each 3 of these temptations, and we're going to use examples and precepts and to see, to make sure that you can thoroughly examine and see, does this fit me anywhere? Am I anywhere in this? Are there some areas that I need to clean up in my life? Because as long as you have the breath in your lungs, you still have time, okay? It's not too late. There are many people in hell who wish they would have taken heed to someone who the Most High brought forth to teach a lesson. But they can't come back. But I can tell you what, there's nobody in hell who is arguing about sin. There's no one in hell that's arguing about repentance because they know. But unfortunately, they found out when it was too late. Don't be like the rich man who went to hell in the Bible and wanted to come back and tell his brethren, but it's too late. So, again, the 3 temptations of sin, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. So let's start with the first one. But I want to go to the scripture that is the premise for today's lesson. 1 John 2:16 says, "For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world." So we see right off that we're being told that the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, these things are not of Yah, but they are rather of the world. And what does the Most High Yah say about lust? Because these are the things that he says that are of the world, and they're not of the Father. So if something is not of the Father, then if we're living a lifestyle that is contrary to that of the Father, then we must know that it definitely will impede on our salvation. And so if we could quickly go to Galatians chapter 5. If you can quickly go to Galatians chapter 5, and I want to read verses, let me see here, 19 and 20. Galatians chapter 5. And I want to read verses 19 and 20. Yeah, that's it. Okay, I wanted to make sure I was here. Okay, now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these. So now we're getting ready to find out what are the works of the flesh, okay? What are the works of the flesh? Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envying, murders, drunkenness. And it didn't say drinking, being drunk. Reveling, meaning those of you still out in the world, still out in the clubs. And it says, and such like of that which I tell you beforehand. He said, I done told you beforehand. And he said, and I've also told you in the past. He said that they which do such things, meaning they who participate in these types of things, he said that they will not inherit the kingdom of Yah. He said you will not get into the kingdom of Yah. You will not enter into the kingdom of Yah if you are still operating in any manifestations of the flesh in your life. And so I want to go back to verse 19 because it says lasciviousness. For those of you who do not know, many of you may not have known this, but lasciviousness is lust. That's what it is. That's what lasciviousness is. It's lust. So if I reread this again, Galatians 5 and 19, it says, now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lust, idolatry. So lust is one of the things that Yah says in verse 20, that those who do such things, he says, you will not inherit the kingdom. So a lot of people think, it's just lust, or I'm just looking. You better listen in to today's teaching, because this will definitely have an impact on if you hear, depart from me, I never knew you, or enter in, my well done, my good and faithful servant. So let's start with the first temptation of sin. Let's start, you might want to mark this, number 1, so you can take notes. The first one is the lust of the flesh. What is the lust of the flesh? According to the Blue Letter Bible, flesh is that which is carnal, the carnally minded. And when we speak of the carnally minded, according to the Blue Letter Bible, it says the earthly nature of a man apart from Yahweh influence, therefore prone to sin and opposed to Yah. I'm going to say this again. To be in the flesh, or the lust of the flesh is carnal, carnally minded. This is the context in which it is being spoken of in 1 John. It says carnally minded, the earthly nature of man apart from Yahweh influence, and therefore prone to sin and opposed to Yah. So the same thing that happened with Adam and Eve when, and I know Prina has read this several times, when they fell from grace and they went from spiritual bodies to the fleshly bodies. They could not deal with being in those fleshly bodies. And again, when you're in this flesh, you're completely different. They could no longer commune with Yah the way they had once did, and they were kicked out. And it says because the flesh, according to the Blue Letter Bible, is the nature of a man that is not influenced by Yah, and therefore if you're not being influenced by Yah, then you're prone to sin and you're opposed to Yah. That means you're an enemy of Yah. So the flesh is enmity against Yah, and it cannot serve Yah. And when we have the lust of the flesh, this is a temptation to feel. It heavily involves the physical pleasures, the senses. And so when you want to fulfill the lust of the flesh, you're doing things that makes the flesh feel satisfied, to bring pleasure, okay? And so we're going to go over a couple examples. I can't go over every example in the world. There's too many, but just a couple just to give you a gist of what I'm saying here. So some examples of the lust of the flesh would include sexual sins, okay, like fornication, doing all these kind of things, engaging in activities that is only reserved for a husband and a wife, gossiping, okay, that's a lust of the flesh, okay, drug use, those of you who may be drunkards, getting drunk, on drugs, taking cocaine, and including those of you who are smoking this marijuana. I don't care if they call it medical marijuana or not. You can call it whatever you want. Plants were made for food, and it tells you that in Genesis 3, I think verse 20. But plants were made for food. I think, no, not Genesis 3, Genesis 1 and 20, I believe. But I know it's in the first chapter, but it tells you that it was made for food. So we were never meant to use his plants that he made for food to smoke it, to get high, because that has absolutely nothing to do with Yah. Now, some people are using it, and they say they're using it because they're in pain, and it does help with the pain. But taking drugs and even the medicine, that's why I don't even like taking the medicine. I know that doctors are needed, and there's times when you have infections and you have different ailments that you do have to take medication. But we see a lot of people who get hooked on these painkillers, and now they're addicted to it. Anything that you're addicted to, that's the thing. We're not supposed to have any kinds of addictions, because that means that your flesh part of you has control over you. You're no longer in control. So taking drugs, getting high, getting drunk, like I said, sexual sins, these are just some examples of fulfilling the flesh. There's many more, but I'm not getting ready to read off every sin. The second sin, the lust of the eyes. We're going to listen to a brief clip about the lust of the eyes, and then we're going to come right back.
Look at the article. It's one of the temptations that Satan uses. It's a weapon, okay? He uses the lust of the eyes, which is an internal mechanism within our flesh that makes us desire things according to appearance, okay? So, men, we can relate to this when it comes to the Jezebel, really hot women. I mean, so many of us just sit there and drool over her. Yeah, we want her, And women are not immune to this either. Many women as well are tempted by physical appearance of men. Men are tempted by the physical appearance, the sensuality of men and women. But this is something to be on guard with. The thing is, when we become born again by the Spirit of God, we recognize that there is a spiritual dimension. And it's not just all about the physical. Many things that look very appealing in the physical are in fact spiritual poison. And that's what this is about. This Bible study, I want you to really comprehend that the spiritual realm is more real than the physical. And this is one of Satan's most powerful temptations, to use the lust of our eyes, eye candy, to lead us astray. Now, this will manifest in all sorts of different ways. The world has things that it offers. I mean, look at this. Doesn't this look appealing to your eyes? Vacations, nice automobiles, and materialism, and mansions, and money, and, beautiful women, beautiful men, sensual women, models, etc. But all of this stuff is empty, okay? So an individual who pursues these things will find themselves to be completely broken within themselves. This will never truly fulfill. And this is the temptation that Satan is using.
All right. So just a brief, he gave a really good definition of the lust of the eyes, and how with man, you just never satisfied. I want to read a precept. Proverbs 28:10 says, He who causes the upright to go astray in an evil way shall fall into his own pit. And so the lust of the eyes is the temptation to look upon things that we shouldn't be looking upon, or to desire the things that we shouldn't desire. You see someone else with something, now I have to go and have it, and that's part of coveting too. But when Yah has told us not to look upon certain things, not to look upon, other people's husbands or wives, or not to sit upon the seat of the scornful, or to engage what we call entertainment in those things with the eyes, that he's called sinful. And then to sit down and watch a television show and say this was good when it was all about fornication and about lust and about adultery. And, Yah is showing me now more than ever to really be careful, because we call a lot of things and we really don't, and it's in our innocence, not really paying attention to what we're saying. It's like we'll see things, oh, that was really good, but just think, okay, what was it about? So what was good about that? It was about fornication. It was about adultery. It was about murder. So woe unto them that call good evil and evil good. And so Yah's really starting to open up my eyes to just those small things that you wouldn't even consider, like, okay, wait a minute, I just called this good, because the acting was good, or because the music was good, or, it had your favorite actor or actors in it, it was good, but it was like, what was it about? And so a lot of times with lusting, coveting always plays a part in it because it starts with coveting. Actually, I've talked about this on previous shows before. The sin of coveting, which is breaking the 10th commandment, coveting it actually leads to all of the other sins. And so it's no wonder why it's the last one or the last sin, because it leads to all the preceding, to the breaking of the preceding commandments. And so when you're coveting, this is basically you succumbing to the lust of your eyes. You see something and you finally yield to it. And sometimes you ever watch something you know you shouldn't be watching or looking, and then you kind of peeking, and then you got one eye closed and the other one kind of open because you know you shouldn't be watching it. And so this is the same thing when and I don't, but when you're watching scary movies, why is it that you got one eye covered? Because it's something that you're feeding your spirit that should not be there. That's the reason why, you know, if you're watching these movies, The Exorcist and all these demonic movies, because they got plenty of these demonic movies out right now. Okay, it's just like the world is worshiping Satan in clear broad daylight, and no believer is crying out. No one sees anything wrong with this. But when you're watching these demonic movies and you're in the theater or you're at home and then you're covering your eyes with your hands, why are you covering your eyes with your hand? Why? Because it's something you should not be watching. And so we rarely hear ministers of today talk about the sin of coveting, the 10th commandment. We don't hear many pastors or teachers talking about coveting, but coveting is serious because it's also idolatry. And we know that no idolater will see the kingdom of heaven. And so when you covet, you have a strong yearning or a strong desire to have something that does not rightfully belong to you. And so an example of that would be in 2 Samuel. So if you could go to 2 Samuel, and we're going to go, this is with our forefather David. Let's go to 2 Samuel, and we're going to read chapter 11. 2 Samuel chapter 11. And we're going to begin at verse 1. 2 Samuel 11:1 reads, "And it happened at the return of the year, at the time when the kings go out, David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the sons of Ammon and laid siege to Rabbah, and David remained in Jerusalem." Verse 2. "And it happened at evening time, when David rose up from his bed and walked up and down on the roof of the king's house." So David woke up and he rose up from his bed. He's walking up and down on the roof. So he's out on the roof of the king's house. And he saw from the roof a woman bathing, and the woman was of very good form. So this woman that David is looking upon is a woman that was very beautiful to look upon, okay? So we can kind of see what sin is operating now, the lust of the eye. So he's looking, and this woman was of very good form. That means she had a nice shape. And David sent and asked about the woman. So he wants to know, okay, who is that? I'm just kind of paraphrasing what he was probably thinking. Normally you see somebody that look nice, and you're like, wow, who is that? So let me go ask somebody else. Who is that? This is what's happening in verse 3. "And the one said, Is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah Hittite?" So right here, David is already aware, like, wait a minute, isn't this the wife of Uriah the Hittite? Okay? So this woman that he's looking upon, Bathsheba, is married. Okay? So David, right then and there, should not even be thinking about pursuing her any further. He should not even be gazing upon her any further because he knows that she is married. And it says, and David sent the messengers and took her, and she came to him, and she lay with him. So I'm kind of like, well, this woman had to be loose. She's married, and she's sleeping with David. Now, from what I've been told and from in Scripture, that David was a very handsome man, looked very nice. And so she slept with him. So she was wrong, too, because she was married. Why is she sleeping with him? But just to make a long story short, David had Uriah killed and made sure that he was put in the front of the battle of the war so that he would get murdered, okay? And when Uriah was murdered, okay, then he took Uriah's wife, Bathsheba, to be his wife. And she became pregnant and was with child. Okay, this was very wicked in the eyes of the Most High Yah, a very wicked thing that David had done. And we know that David was a man that was after Yah's own heart, but even still, he, as much as he loved the Most High Yah, he got caught up by the sin of the lust of the eyes and the lust of the flesh. Okay? And so Psalms 101 verse 3 says, I will set nothing wicked before my eyes. I will set nothing wicked before my eyes. I will not sit in the seat of the scornful. So we have to be very careful of the things that we put in front of our eyes. And so let's go to the third one, the pride of life. What is the pride of life? Well, we're going to do a word study on pride. But the pride of life is that sinful temptation to have an excess of, whether it be of anything. It could be power, control, position, but it's to be in excess of. And we're going to do the word study that's going to help us to better understand this. And pride itself is one of the 6 things and the 7th that Yah finds an abomination, but it's one of the things that Yah says he hates. And so since pride is one of the 6 that he hates and the 7th is an abomination, don't you think we should know what this is? So let's get right into our word study. So I hope that you have your notepad and you have your pen. All right, so pride. According to the Blue Letter Bible, number 212, or 212, however you want to say it, pride is empty, bragging talk, so a person who likes to brag, which is also a person who is arrogant. It says empty assurance. So it's vain assurance, someone who's very sure of themselves, very confident, conceit, but it's empty, it's vain, it's useless. So for pride, the Blue Letter Bible says it's empty, bragging talk, arrogance, empty assurance. And then it says empty assurance, which trusts in one's own power and resources and shamefully despises and violates divine law, which is the law of Yah. Okay, so empty assurance, which trusts in one's own power, meaning you trusting in your own power, you're trusting in your own strength, your own resources, and shamefully despises and violates the law of Yah. Empty presumptions, which trust in your own ability or stability of earthly things. You feel that you are the one that keep yourself afloat. This is what the Blue Letter Bible, how the Blue Letter Bible defines pride in the context in which it is being spoken of. And guess what else it said? And this is something that I want us all to really take a look at as it pertains to ourselves. It says self-confidence. I bet you some of you are probably over there ready to fall through the floor like, what? Self-confidence? Yes. Self-confidence, and that's right up there with self-esteem. Now, we have to realize and recognize, where did this come from? Where did the teaching of self-confidence and the teaching of self-esteem, where did this come from? Because The Bible does not talk about self-confidence. You can't find it. The Bible does not talk about self-esteem. It talks about highly esteeming Yah. It talks about trusting in Yah and having confidence in Him and hope in Him. It never talks about being confident in yourself. See, this is pride. This is the blue letter Bible for pride. It says self-confidence. This is the exact opposite of what the world teaches. The world teaches self-confidence and self-esteem. He's never told you to esteem yourself, to have confidence in yourself. We can't have confidence in ourselves because the heart is deceitfully wicked. Who can know it? Strong Hebrews 2087 for pride says arrogance. Same thing Blue Letter Bible said. Presumptuously pride. A proud man. Someone who is pride. Full of pride, proud man. Is this not what we see when we go to these festivals and you see the homosexuals and they have their parades and the LGBT and all this and the parade and their pride, their festivals of pride? Do you know that Prina, I want you to just come in for a second. When I was looking up, because I was trying to, find pictures, to create pictures for the teaching. Mm-hmm. When I looked up, because I was looking up lust of the, flesh, pride, and I just typed in pride. And I always click on images so that I can just get various pictures for what I'm looking for. When I looked up pride, do you know all I saw was LGBT, the rainbow, their symbol that they took. And it's not their symbol. Let me make that perfectly clear. It is the covenant sign of our Abba Yah. To his creation that he would never again destroy the world with a flood like he did before. And they have taken it and they have desecrated it and have used it for their abominable ways. But as you know, Prina, they are full of pride. Yeah. They're very proud. So it's not a coincidence that they're calling their festivals pride. Love one. And they're and you notice they're very proud, very arrogant, very arrogant and haughty. Pride is one of the 6 things that Yah hates. Yeah. Okay? This is what I saw. If you Google it yourself and you just do the images, click instead of all, when you go to Google, click on images and type in pride, you're going to see what I'm saying. That's all I did not see anything else from top to bottom. A billion pictures is their logos with pride, their symbols. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Now, there in Strong Hebrews, I only gave you one number, Strong Hebrews 2087, but there were 14 different numbers and definitions for pride, but they all said the same thing. 14 different numbers for pride. I just gave you one, 2087. But did you know that all 14 said the same thing? They all say arrogance. They all said haughtiness. They all said exaltation, meaning to exalt yourself. They all said lifting up, swelling, to boast or brag. And then you know what it had? At the end it had tower, as in the Tower of Babel. Wow. Confusion. This is, do you know that, and when they were building this tower, they were full of arrogance. They highly esteemed themselves. They were full of confidence, self-confidence, that they could build this tower to go up into the heavens to fight against Yah. They trusted in their own power, like the Blue Letter Bible said, their own power, their own resources. Okay? They trust that they are able or have the ability to sustain themselves. So when I was putting this together, it kind of made me think, how pretty we always talk about having self-confidence and self-esteem. I'm going to have to, I can't do that anymore. I've done this study. So there's other things. Yes, you want to feel good about yourself. You don't want to feel bad about yourself. But we can no longer go around talking about self-confidence because it's not about self. It's about him. That's what this is about, exaltation of self. Pride is about exalting yourself above Yah. That's what the Blue Letter Bible 212 gives you. And then when I looked it up at thesource.com, because I did it with 3 different sources, 2 or 3 to establish I'm a witness. Self-esteem. It said for pride, it said self-esteem. So that's the reason why I said self-esteem was right up there with self-confidence. And thesource.com, pride, do you know it says self-esteem? That's what you go to thesource.com and Google and type in pride. The definition that they gave in thesource.com for pride was self-esteem. Blue Letter Bible gave the definition of self-confidence. Thesource.com gave self-esteem. I never knew that pride was, I'm thinking, okay, it was arrogant, you puffed up, you bragging, you haughty. Yeah. I didn't know that it also meant self-confidence and self-esteem. These are the teachings that, you teach your children, you teach your students. This is what the world teaches you, feel good about yourself, confidence. We're not supposed to have confidence in ourselves. We're supposed to have confidence and trust in Yah. It also said self-respect. Did you know that?
No. Wow.
Self-respect. This is in thesource.com. This is not even in the Bible-based words. Thesource.com said for pride, self-esteem, self-respect, self-confidence, self-sufficiency, self-admiration, and self-trust. Just Google it so you can see what I'm talking about. Thesource.com, pride. Type in pride. These were all the definitions for pride. Self-esteem, self-respect, self-confidence, self-sufficiency, self-admiration, self-trust. These are all the things that the world teaches.
Yeah.
They call this, what is that the teaching that you have, the encouraging, motivational type things. Mm-hmm. When you're teaching these things, you're teaching pride. One of the 6 things he says he hates, and the 7th is an abomination. So we can't go around teaching these things to our children. Now, those of you who find this out, you still want to teach self-confidence and self-pride and self-respect, just know that you're teaching pride, and you've already been warned. Okay? Yeah. You've done the word study. Yah says, cursed is he who puts his trust in the arm of man.
Yeah.
Okay? Proverbs 3, if you can quickly go to Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, trust in Yah. Didn't I say trust in you? It says trust in Yah with all your heart. And lean not on your own understanding, meaning do not depend on your own understanding. Remember, when we read the Blue Letter Bible 2:12 for pride, it says that you trust in your ability to sustain yourself, that you trust in your own power. Is that what we're reading in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6? Did he say to trust in your own power, in your own strength? Did he say to depend on your own understanding? He says trust in Yah with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Another version says he will guide you on the right path. Verse 7, it says, do not be wise in your own eyes. We're told in Proverbs 3 and 7, do not be wise in your own eyes. That's not that's not the definition of pride, according to the Blue Letter Bible, according to Strong Hebrews and thesource.com. It says, Proverbs 3 and 7, do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear Yah and turn away from evil. So Yah says that it is an evil thing. It is evil in the eyes of the Most High to esteem yourself or to have self-confidence. That means that you're trusting in your own abilities and you're not recognizing the source or the power of all of who you are, have, and will ever be or become. Everything comes from Yah. We can't even get up in the morning on our own unless he sees or finds fit to wake you up. The sun obeys. The sun has to rise. It rises and sets in the east. If it decides to go to the west, it will be sinning against Yah. The sun has to obey. All of creation has to obey. And although many who are foolish think that they have power outside of the Ruach, again, he gives you the ability to do anything that you do. You don't have the ability or the right to do anything unless he gives you permission. Satan can't even attack you unless he gives permission. So let us give all honor and praise and the highest esteem to he and he alone who deserves it. And that's our Abba Yah, because he alone is worthy of it. We're not worthy of it. That's why Yeshua said, call no man good. Only Yah is good. Yah never told us to esteem ourselves. He never told us to be confident in our own abilities. But we got to realize that it's only in through him that we have our being. And without him, we are nothing, mist, vapor, dust. The concept of self, and as I was preparing this, Yah just dropped it in my spirit. This is another New Age movement teaching, and that's why Yah said that there's nothing new under the sun. This whole philosophy that many of you have bought into, it comes from the world. The same world that Yah said, although we are in the world, we are not to be of the world, because all that is of the world is not of him. The same world that he says that if you're friends with those that are in the world, then you now have become an enemy of Yah. Who wants to be an enemy of Yah? So how does pride look? Let's talk about that for a moment. How does pride look? Well, some things is desiring to get credit or to get glory or esteem for the things that Yah has done. And we're going to read a scripture about that in a minute. Desiring for others to worship you. We see this a lot in these churches. And we see this a lot with these celebrities, where people are worshiping these celebrities. You know, these celebrities, they want the worship. They want people worshiping them. Michael Jackson loved the worship, you know. But, you know, you're designed for others to worship you and to hold you in high esteem. You want to make a name for yourself. You desire to feel more value or more important to everybody around you. It's got to always be about you. You desire to have a position of power over other people, and then when you get in it, you're puffed up, you're egotistical, you're mistreating people, you're bragging about it. But what did Yeshua say? Yeshua said that those who desire to be great should be a servant. Quickly go to Acts chapter 12. We're going to read. This is the perfect example to me to read, and a very strong warning to those who seek to be highly esteemed and take the esteem away from Yah. Go to Acts chapter 12, and we're going to read verses 22 and 23. Acts chapter 12, verses 22 and 23. And the people began to cry out. Some of your Bibles might say, and the people began to shout, but they were crying out, they were screaming and yelling, just like they did at the Michael Jackson concerts, while they was falling out and crying over an earthly man who is not even here anymore. So that tells you how much power he had. Did he get up after 3 days and 3 nights with all power in his hand? Is he sitting at the right hand of the Father? I think not. Cry out to the Father. Don't cry out to these wicked celebrities who have sold their souls, who are leading men straight to hell. It says in Acts chapter 12 and 22, and the people began to cry out. What were they crying out? This is the voice of a God and not a man. And then it says in verse 23, immediately, because Herod did not give praise to Yah, it says an angel of the Most High struck him down, and he was eaten by worms and died. Do you see this? Another version, I like the way this version reads. It says, instantly, an angel of the Most High struck Herod with a sickness because he accepted the people's worship instead of giving the glory to Yah. So he was consumed with worms and died. I love the way that reads. I love the way that reads because it's getting straight to the point. He was struck by an angel with sickness because he accepted the people's worship. Instead of giving the glory to Yah, instead of giving the highest esteem to Yah, he was struck down. He took you. Yah says he's a jealous guy. He will not give his glory to another. He's not going to give his esteem to another. That's why when people say, oh, you teach so well this, I say, all praises be to the Most High. Don't start worshiping me. I'm a messenger. But I couldn't do this unless his Ruach HaKodesh was leading me and speaking through me. He is the one that gives me the gifts to teach this way. I take no credit. All praises go to Yah. He gets all of the glory, all of the high esteem. So for those of you who are ascribing to that we are God's foolishness, because that just popped in my head, those of you who are ascribing to the we are God's foolishness, you're operating in the spirit of pride. Do you know that? You're trusting in yourself. You're carnal. I already told you at the top of the show what flesh means. To be carnally minded. To be opposed to the ways of Yah. So how can you be in a fleshly body that is opposed to the ways of Yah, that is subject to sin and suffering? How can you call yourself a God? You're falling for the same banana in the tailpipe that Eve fell for. You're falling for it. The we are God's teaching is foolishness. If you don't know what is truly being said, go check out our lesson, the we are God's deception. Go and listen to it. You're operating in the spirit of pride. We just did a study on pride, and according to the Blue Letter Bible 212, it means arrogance, trusting in your own power, your own resources. You're trusting in your own ability to sustain yourself, and you don't have the ability to sneeze without his permission. Again, that's that self-confidence and self-esteem is pride. So let's go to, since Yah said this is one of the 6 things, there are 6 things that he hates, and 7 are an abomination. Let's quickly go to Proverbs chapter 6. And I want to begin at verse 16. Let's begin at verse 16. Let's begin at verse 16. There are 6 things that Yah hates. Yes, 7 are an abomination to him. So I'm just going to, I'm reading them in the order. A proud look. Do you know pride is number 1? Pride is at the top of the list of the 6 things that he hates, and he says the 7 are an abomination. A proud look, that's haughtiness. That's the same thing as pride, because we already did the definition. A lying tongue. Hands that kill innocent people, that's murder. And notice it's innocent people, not somebody who breaks in your house and means you and your family harm, because you have the right to protect yourself. That is not a murder when someone's coming in with a gun trying to kill you and your family. You have to protect yourself. But hands that kill innocent people, that is murder. A mind that thinks up wicked plans, somebody who's always plotting to do wicked stuff. Feet that hurry or are swift to do evil, somebody always quick to get in on doing something wicked, something evil, something they shouldn't be doing. A witness who tells one lie after another. Okay, you can't be going around bearing false witness. And one is someone who stirs up trouble among friends, someone who causes strife. You don't like somebody, so you want to go talk about them to somebody else so you can influence them to not like them. Yah says he hates these things. It's an abomination. Anybody who's a busybody, always in everybody's business, always talking about everybody, please know that when they're talking about everybody else to you, behind your back, they're talking about you too. You're not special. They're talking about you too. So we know that pride is a sin that may at the time, and he's no longer Lucifer, but at the time he was Lucifer, he was a beautiful angel, but then he turned into Satan, the adversary, after the fact. And we know that pride was the sin that caused Satan to fall. So let's consider Satan's words in Isaiah chapter 14. So go to Isaiah chapter 14. And we're going to go to we're going to read verse 12 through 14. Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 through 14. O Lucifer, son of the morning, how you have fallen from the heavens. You weakening the nations, you are cut down to the ground. For you have said in your heart, see, this is that self-doctrine, I will go up to the heavens. That's what they did with the tower. This is what they said in their heart. I will raise my throne above the stars of Yah. I will sit in the mountains of the appointed, in the side of the north. I will rise over the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High Yah. I. That's all you heard. Self. Self-esteem, self-confidence in oneself. This is how he fell. This is the heart of a person who has self-confidence and self-esteem and is full of the spirit of pride. So let's take a look at all three of these temptations in action. Let's take a look at all three of them in action. Because we know that every sin that man commits, it involves at least, and I said this at the beginning, when every sin that man commits, it involves at least one of these three temptations, and for some it may involve all of them. So we're going to take a look at how Satan used all three temptations with Eve in the garden. In the garden, the sin that took place, he used all three: the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. And he also used it with our master, Yeshua. So we're going to take a look at these two stories, and I'm going to show you how he did use it. So if you could quickly go to Genesis chapter 3, and then we're going to read verses 1 through 6. Genesis chapter 3, 1 through 6. And the serpent was cunning above every beast of the field which Yah had made. And he said to the woman, Is it so that Yah has said, You shall not eat from any tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, Of the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat, but the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden Yah has said, You shall not eat of it, nor shall you touch it, unless you die. And the serpent said to the woman, Surely you shall not die. So we see he's lying, okay? He's not telling the truth. For Yah knows that in the day that you eat of it, your eyes shall be open, okay? So your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as Yah, knowing good and evil. Now, look at verse 6. And when the woman saw, here we go, saw that the tree was good for food, so now she's like, this looks like this might be good for food. Here's the lust of the flesh. Fulfilling the lust of the flesh, the senses, something that may be good to eat, good for food. The lust of the flesh, even though Yah said you shall not eat it, but the lust of the flesh is causing her to want to eat it, that which Yah had told her not to eat. And there it was what? Not only good for food, but that it was what? Pleasant to the eyes. Here we go with the lust of the eyes. This seems like this might feel good or taste good to eat, and it's also pleasant to the eyes, so I can fulfill my flesh because it tastes good, and I can fulfill the lust of the eyes because it's pleasant to my eyes. It looks good. And a tree to be desired to make one wise. So here we go with the pride of life. Did we read earlier when I was reading in Proverbs 3 5 through 7, that we are not to be wise in our own thinking, wise in our own mind. See, a person that is filled with pride, they feel that they can sustain themselves. They feel that they can operate in their own power. And so what did she do? She took of the fruit thereof, and she did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and what? And he did eat. And so we all know how this story ends. I don't have to read any further. But in this story, we see how the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life played out in the very beginning. And look at the condition of mankind now because of these three sins that played out in the garden. Now, let's go to Yeshua's temptation by Satan when he was tempted. Let's go to Matthew chapter 4. Matthew chapter 4, and we're going to read verses 1 through 10. Matthew 4, verses 1 through 10. Verse 1. Then Yeshua was led up into the wilderness by the Spirit to be tempted by the devil. And having fasted 40 days and 40 nights, afterwards he was hungry. Coming near to him, the accuser said, If you be the Son of Yah, command that these stones be made bread. So now we see here that Satan is trying to tempt our master because he knows that he's very hungry because he had not eaten in 40 days and 40 nights because he was fasting. And he was very hungry. So now he is tempting our master Yeshua to fulfill the lust of his flesh because he is hungry. And boy, if I could turn this stone into bread, that's the lust of the flesh. Okay? But Yeshua answered and said to him, It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Yah. Bread alone is not going to sustain you. It's not about just eating, fulfilling the lust of flesh and just eating whatever we want, but we have to live by the word of the Most High Yah. So Yeshua responded back to Satan with the word of Yah, and every time he spoke to him, he says, It is written. So verse 5, Matthew 4, verse 5. Then the accuser takes him to the holy city, the set-apart city, and he set him on the pinnacle of the sanctuary. And Satan said to him, If you are the Son of Yah, throw yourself down, for it has been written that he will give his angels charge concerning you, and they shall bear you on their hands, unless you strike your foot against a stone. So here we see Satan is trying to tempt Yeshua to operate out of the pride of life. You have power. This is so many words Satan is telling Yeshua. You know you the Son of Yah. You got power. You can sustain yourself. Why don't you go ahead and throw yourself down and prove that you're the Son of Yah? Because, you know, even if you did fall, he said his angels would come and have charge concerning you. They would bear you. They would take care of you. But see, he wants them to operate out of pride, be haughty in pride, and I am the Messiah. Yeah, I am getting ready to die and raise in 3 days. So I am the Son of Yah. So let me go ahead and prove to you. See, this is the same thing how Satan got Moses, and Moses was not even able to go into the land because of his pride. When he struck the rock a second time, that was symbolic of our Mashiach. Okay? He listened to the people and struck, or Scripture says, smoke or struck the rock a second time, and the water came out. See, sometimes when Yah gives you power to do things or the ability to do things, and you use what he gives you to try to prove, I'm this and I'm bad. No, you have to realize you're not operating on your own. What he has given to you is not because you're so great and you're to be exalted and have everyone look at you. He's given this to you. So Satan was tempting Yeshua to prove that he was the Son. And go ahead, you're the big bad Messiah. Go ahead, show everybody. Prove it. Okay? So Satan was quoting scripture. You see how I told you Satan knows the word? He was quoting scripture. He was quoting Psalms 91, verses 11 and 12. Yeshua quoted scripture, and I guess he said, I'm going to throw it back at you. Okay, verse 7. And Yeshua said to him again, and now he's saying again, it has been written. He's giving him the word. You shall not test Yah your power. Now, it says again, the devil takes him to a very high mountain and shows him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them, and the glory of them, the lust of the eyes. He took him to the top of the mountain and showed him the glory of the kingdoms of the world. The same thing that Satan is doing right now at this very moment with all of the celebrities that have sold their souls. He took them to the top and showed them, look, all this, he says, I will give you if you will bow down and you will worship me. So many have fallen down. They have bowed down and have worshiped Satan. This is why I tell you, stop worshiping these celebrities because they have sold their souls. They have taken Satan up on his offer, and eventually they're going to burn in the pits of hell for it. And they're going to not only burn in hell for them accepting the oath and selling their soul, but they're also going to be responsible for all the souls that they are leading astray. They're going to be responsible for all the souls they're leading astray. Remember what I read for you in Proverbs, that if you're leading other people into sin, he says you're going to fall into the pit. You're going to fall in the pit. For everybody that you lead into sin, you're going to fall in the pit. This is straight up with Proverbs 28 and 10. He who causes the upright to go astray in any evil way shall fall into his own pit. This is what's going to happen. So are we saying, is today's teaching to say that we can't have any pleasure, that we cannot enjoy the things of life? No. That's not what we're saying. But I think it's important for you all to realize that although Yah has given us many things that we can enjoy, but even within those things that he has given to us for our enjoyment or our pleasure, we have to stay within certain parameters. And so I want to use a few examples. Now, we know that Yah created delicious food for us to eat. So there's nothing wrong with enjoying a delicious meal. We have to eat to live. But we are not to be a glutton, because gluttony is a sin. To be a glutton is a sin. Some of us, once we get full, we still want to keep eating until once your stomach is hurting, you're being a glutton. We're not supposed to be eating until our guts are busting out because we're overeating. But I also want to make another note. Yes, Yah has created all things, okay? Yah has created all things, okay? But in Genesis chapter 1, we know he talks about everything that he made, and everything he made was good. However, everything that he made was good for the purpose in which it was created. And some of you probably already know where I'm going. So this is why Yah separated the clean from the unclean, and he made each animal male and female that they might populate the earth to continue in the purpose in which they were created. So let me say this, and I want to make this perfectly clear. Pigs, shrimp, crabs, and lobster was never created for human consumption. It was never created to be eaten. It's not food. Yes, pork, shrimp, crab, and lobster, they are good. They're good to function in the capacity in which Yah created them. And that was to clean up the waters and the land. They're living vacuum cleaners, bottom feeders. But again, they were never created for food. They were never for food for man to eat. In the beginning, in Genesis 1:30, it tells us that every green plant is for food. And it was so. However, after the fall of mankind and the sin that took place in the Garden of Adam and Eve, after they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, then man was given a guideline or a checklist, per se, in Leviticus chapter 11 and Deuteronomy 14 of the foods that now in our fleshly body, our carnally minded body, he would approve for us as food to eat. In the beginning, he said that he made the plants, in Genesis 1:30. That would be our food. But after, again, the sin in the garden, we're now in the fleshly bodies. He approved a checklist of foods in Leviticus 11 and 14 that would be consumable to eat. And again, pork, shrimp, crab, and lobster is not on that list as consumable foods, but they are on the list of foods that he says that we cannot eat. And they are on a list that our Abba Yah and our Creator said are unclean and shall be unclean to us and are an abomination. So it is a sin to eat pork, shrimp, crab, and lobster, and many of you think that you're not going in the pit for it, but you will if you continue to eat them because you're sinning. So let me give you another example. Yah created, so we did the Yah created food, but we have to stay within the parameters of that which he says is food, and that which we can eat, we're not supposed to be overeating. Yah created sex. Let's talk about that just briefly. He created sex. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with being physically intimate with our spouses. I want to make that clear again. He created sex, and he created sex to be pleasurable so that we will want to do it for the purpose of recreating and repopulating the earth. So there's nothing wrong with being physically intimate with our spouses. Not with any man or woman that you please that you are not married to. The key word, again, is with our spouses, with your husband, with your wife. But adultery and fornication and lasciviousness, which is lust, is a sin. It's a sin. So I'm trying to help you to understand, yes, Yah created things that were good for us to look upon, good for us to eat, good for us, things that were good for us to engage in, but it's within certain parameters. Food is within certain parameters. Entertainment is within certain parameters. Physical intimacy within certain parameters. Everybody is not going to be able to enjoy sex or should not be able to enjoy if you're not married, but we know that's not the world we're living in. Everybody's fornicating. Everybody is filled with lust. Fornication, adultery, we don't care. And masturbation is in it too because that's sodomy. Yah gave us many beautiful things to look at. I mean, the creation itself is breathtaking. I mean, we have some beautiful places in the world, okay? Some of them I've never visited, but I've seen pictures, so yes. But however, when you start worshiping his creations, like the stars and the moon and the sun, we see this is all about sun worship. Christianity is all about sun worship. Most of them have no idea. Worshiping the stars and the moons, worshiping the creations instead of the creator, it becomes idolatry, which is a sin. Again, Yah gave us or created many beautiful things for us to gaze upon, but when we begin to lust after things that he told us are a sin, or when we long and have a longing or a strong desire after something that does not belong to us, then it becomes coveting. And coveting is a sin, and again, it breaks the 10th commandment. Thou shalt not covet. Again, Psalms 101:3, King David said, I will set nothing wicked before my eyes. So when we're lusting after or looking upon things like watching pornography, watching X-rated movies and videos, watching evil movies when he says that stay away from all appearances of evil, lusting after or coveting after someone else's wife or husband or car or position at work, or even the gifts within the body, because I see a lot of that going on. Oh, she's a teacher, so I want to be a teacher like her. Oh, well, he's a prophet, I want to be a prophet too. When Yah said he has not called you to teach, maybe that's not your gift. You coveting after somebody else's gift, and now you don't got the spirit of envy and jealousy that has rose up in you, and now you're hating your brother or sister without a cause, all because you're coveting after something that doesn't belong to you, that he hasn't given to you, or maybe he will, but he hasn't given it to you yet. But I see a lot of that going on within the body. People jealous and envying gifts and positions. Sometimes it'll just be, it may be the way you look. People are jealous of you because they think you're attractive, or the things that you have that they desire to have, or talent that Yah has blessed you with, and they're jealous of it. Or it could be just the fact that so many people like you or respect you, and they want that. They're kind of like Satan. I will be like the Most High. I want people to do that with me. Prina can tell you, this has happened with me a lot. So in their heart, they feed a spirit of envy and jealousy and hatred, and oftentimes they themselves do not even realize that this is a spirit that's operating in them. They have no idea. But getting back to looking on things that are not rightfully ours to look upon, remember David, David and how he looked upon and lusted after Bathsheba. Remember, it caused him to commit various sins. He was coveting, he was lusting, he committed adultery, he stole another man's wife. And then afterwards, he had Uriah killed, which was a sin of murder. So he committed multiple sins. And in the end, he lost the son that he had with Bathsheba because of it. That's why Proverbs 6:25 says, do not lust after her beauty in your heart. Do not let her take you with her eyelids. Take you where? Take you to hell. That's what Proverbs 6:25 is talking about. Do not lust after her beauty in your heart. Do not let her take you with her eyelids. This Beyonce got plenty of people. Beyonce and Rihanna, Cardi B, all these people, they got you mesmerized with their fake butts and implants and breast implants and their weaves and their ton of makeup and their so-called glamorous clothes, and they're singing all their lustful songs, and they're drawing many men astray. But what did Yeshua say about looking upon another that does not belong to you? Matthew 5. Go to Matthew 5, and we're going to read verses 27 and 28. Matthew 5:27 and 28. You have heard that it was said, do not commit adultery. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman to lust after her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown in hell. So Yeshua is saying, look, I know you've heard the commandment, you shall not commit adultery. Many people, I haven't committed adultery. I haven't slept with anybody else's wife. Yeshua says you have if you have looked at another woman, if you have been lusting after another woman, he says you have already committed adultery. You've already done it in your heart. This is the reason why he says, look, if you can't stop sinning, then it's better for you to pluck out that one eye that can't stop looking at pornography or lusting after women. It's better for you to pluck out that one eye and go into the kingdom with one eye than to be thrown into hell with your whole body because you couldn't stop lusting. I want to visit some scriptures about pride, about the stronghold of pride. You can just write these down. I'm going to be reading them quickly. Proverbs 16:5, it says, everyone who is arrogant in heart is an abomination to Yah. Be assured he will not go unpunished. So Yah says that those who are arrogant, it's an abomination to Yah to be arrogant. I don't know how many people knew that. But I've met people who are arrogant, and my spirit doesn't agree with people who are arrogant. It's people right now that I work with that are arrogant, and it's hard for me to work with them. Yah says it's an abomination to him, and he says, you better let this be assured. This assured thing, he says, you will not go unpunished. You will be punished for being arrogant because Satan was arrogant. It's pride. Arrogance is pride. Remember, we did the word study. If you're arrogant, you're full of pride. James 4:6, but he gives more grace. Therefore, it says, Yah opposes the proud. I'm going to say this again, James 4:6. Yah opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Proverbs 16, verses 18 and 19. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. It is better to be of a lowly spirit with the poor than to divide the spoil with the proud. So he said, look, pride comes before the destruction. Before somebody is finally destroyed, they were full of pride first. He says a haughty spirit comes before a fall. Before a man finally falls and everything crumbles around him, he loses everything. He was haughty and full of pride before he fell. James 4:7. Submit yourselves, therefore, to Yah. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Proverbs 8:13. The fear of the Most High is hatred of evil. Pride and arrogance and the way of the evil and the perverted speech I hate. So he says he hates pride and arrogance. Another verse says the fear of Yah is to hate evil, pride and arrogancy, and the evil way, and the froward mouth. He says, do I hate? He hates someone that is willfully contrary to the way of Yah. Meaning you're making a choice, a conscious choice, that I'm not going to serve you. I could, but I choose not to. You're froward. He says he hates you. So when people say God loves everybody, no, he doesn't. He doesn't love the prideful. He doesn't love the arrogance. I'm sitting here reading it to you now in Proverbs 8:13. He says, I love those who love me. 1 Timothy 3:6. He must not be a recent convert, or he may become puffed up with conceit and fall into the condemnation of the devil. You fall into the condemnation of the devil. We talked about condemnation versus judgment last week. Condemnation is blaming, to bear the blame. He is the accuser, and he goes up throughout the earth night and day, accusing mankind before Yah. Look at your servant. Remember, she said she served you. Look what she over there doing. Look what he over there doing. Pride is idolatry. It's idolatry because it's a direct link to stubbornness. Stubbornness will not allow you to submit. That's the thing. Stubbornness will not allow you to submit because you feel that you are confident in your own ability to sustain yourself. That's what pride is. I don't need Yah. I can do this on my own. That's what they say. And that's what they think. So overcoming the temptation of the flesh of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. How do we overcome these three temptations? Let's go to Romans 8 and 6. Romans 8 and 6. For to be carnally minded, and to be carnally minded is minding the things of the flesh. To be carnally minded is death. Let me read that again. Romans 8 and 6. To be carnally minded is death. That means to be in the flesh is death. Because I gave you a blue letter Bible definition for flesh. And it said carnally minded. That was one of it. So to be carnally minded or to be of the flesh is death. Are you reading this? In Romans 8 and 6. But to be spiritually minded is life and peace. But the carnal mind is enmity against Yah, meaning it is always going to be a mutual opposition with Yah. Mutual hatred. My son gave me a scripture earlier today, and I want to read it. And this is the perfect timing. And this goes, he came in just before I began to teach, and he gave me this scripture. And this scripture, must have been a set apart spirit, because this goes perfectly with a precept to Romans 8 and 6, where it says it's mutually enmity against Yah, meaning mutually opposed. There's mutual hatred. He gave me John 3 and 6. Oh, I'm sorry, John 3 and 20. John 3 and 20 says, everyone practicing wickedness hates the light and does not come to the light, that his works might not be exposed. So darkness hates the light. John 3 and 20, darkness hates the light. This is what mutual enmity against Yah is. It says the flesh, which is carnal minded, it says a carnal minded is death. That's walking in darkness. It's enmity against Yah. It says in John 3 and 20, and all praises be to Yah for giving this to my 11-year-old son to share with you all today. And this must have been something that Yah wanted, because he came in here and gave it to me. For everyone practicing wickedness hates the light. Darkness hates the light. For it is not subject to the law of Yah. That's what we read earlier about being in the flesh. Neither indeed can it be. It cannot be. The flesh cannot serve Yah. He says, so then they that are in the flesh cannot please Yah. If you are in the flesh, you are carnally minded. If you're carnally minded, Romans 8 and 6 says you're just walking around dead. Like Yeshua said, even though you are yet alive, you're dead. It has not physically manifested. But as the gentleman said in the audio clip that we listened to earlier, that the spiritual world is more real than the physical. The spiritual world is more real. So a lot of things, you are already in the spiritual world, you're already dead. It just hasn't manifested physically yet. That's why if you're in the flesh, you're already dead. Spiritually, you're dead. They're looking at you in the spiritual world, and that's like, that's a dead duck right there. He think he alive, but he really dead. I'm looking at him dead spiritually, but he think he alive. That's a deception of the heart. To be in darkness and still think that you're in the light. This is what Satan uses. He uses the five senses, the taste, the touch, the smell, the hearing, the seeing. These all have to do with being carnally minded, which is the enemy of Yah. These are the senses that Satan used, again, to tempt us. The lust of the flesh includes tasting, touching, smelling, and hearing. The lust of the eye involves seeing, things you look at. The pride of life is you thinking that you are special or more than you are. Again, the enemy uses these three, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life to entice us to sin. And we have all fallen prey at one point. And we're almost done with today's lesson. We're almost done. I'm getting ready to call Preena in a minute. And my prayer was to be done at 4 o'clock, and I'm proud that I'm able to do it. But overcoming the 3 temptations. How can we overcome the 3 temptations of sin? The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. Well, first off, you're gonna have to pray and fast, because Yeshua said that some spirits do not leave unless you pray and fast. Pray and fast, and then you have to remove yourself from the seat of the scornful. Come out from among them. Come out from among them, and those that will become a snare unto you. Some of you are you're hanging around dead people. You're in relationships with dead people. People who look like they're alive because they're walking, they're eating, they're breathing, they're pooping. But spiritually, they're dead. In the spiritual world, they can see that they're already a dead duck. It just hasn't manifested on the physical yet. Just like Adam and Eve. Satan told them, you shall not surely die. That was a lie. He knew they physically, Adam and Eve, did not die right away. But spiritually, they were already dead. They were already separated from Yah. Their bodies changed. Everything changed. They were no longer spiritual anymore. He lied. He's lying to some of you right now, and you're still falling for the same trick that he's been using since the Garden of Eden. He has not used any new tricks, and you're still falling for the banana in the tailpipe. Some of you are in relationships or in friendships or marriages with people who are dead. Many of them have become a snare to you because they're flesh, and they're fleshly, and they're carnally minded, and they're enmity and opposed to Yah. They're enemy of Yah. They're a snare unto you. You think you're getting ready to change them, but guess what? You can't. You have no power to do it. No man comes to the Father but by him. You see? That which would become a snare unto you, you need to let it go and begin to feed your inner man. This is to those of you who want to overcome these sins. Let go of people and things that will become a snare to you. If you have a problem with drugs, you can't go back out and hang with people who still doing drugs. Not even people who smoking cigarettes, because a lot of times that's the gateway to the rest of them. People who smoking cigarettes is a gateway to weed. Weed is a gateway to crack and cocaine. Next thing you know, you strung out on a pipe and don't know how you got there. Started with the cigarettes. But again, remove yourself from the seat of the scornful and that which will become a snare to you. Fast and pray, and then meditate on Yah. Meditate on the things of Yah. Get in his word and study. Learn who he is. Surround yourself around those who are truly serving Yah and other believers who can support and counsel and encourage you in the ways of Yah. Not encourage you to become a snare to yourself. Many of you are around people who are encouraging you to do the wrong things. They're encouraging you to fornicate. They're encouraging you to commit adultery. I've heard people say, oh, yeah, girl, go ahead and give him a little something. He's married. Why should you do that? You're encouraging someone to be an adulteress. I've heard this. But sometimes that might even mean, and some of you might not agree with me, but removing yourself from your own family members and friends. Because sometimes those are our biggest hindrance to us moving forward. Our family. They don't want to serve Yah, and they're going to be a snare eventually. Because some of you are not strong enough to still be around family members and friends who are still living in the world. Some of you, instead of you being a light unto them, they done pulled you back, and now you back in the club. Remember, Abraham left his father because his father was an idol worshiper. And let me say this. When it comes to your health and the well-being of your sobriety and your salvation, you don't owe anybody anything. You don't owe them any explanation. It's all bets off. When you're compromising my salvation, all bets are off. You don't owe them anything. Your loyalty lies with Yah, not men. And until many of you realize that, your ability to overcome a lot of the strongholds that are in your life, it's not going to happen. Nothing is going to change because you have not done anything to change the situation that's around you. You have to make preparations for the kingdom. If you want to be in the kingdom, and the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, or the pride of life, if you're struggling with one or two or all three, you got to do something different. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. That's insanity. This is why many of you continue to struggle with the same things year after year after year. You still talking about, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that. And you haven't done anything. You know why? Because you haven't removed the snare that's in your life. That's why. Whatever, whoever that or they may be, I don't know. Only you and Yah know. But you're going to have to get to a point that, as Yeshua said, if you put your mother, father, sister, brother, kids, anybody above him, you are not worthy of being in the kingdom. You're not worthy of being in. Pretty, you can come in. You're not worthy.
Come in, sis.
Proverbs 16:18 says, pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Pride goes before a destruction. Before a person is finally destroyed, they were full of arrogance and pride. They didn't want, how many times you speak to somebody and you try to warn them and they don't want to listen? They don't want to take heed. As I said earlier, there's plenty of people in hell wish they would have taken heed. Trust me, when they heard those words, we're not there yet. But no one is in hell arguing about repentance. Nobody is in hell arguing about right from wrong because they know. So while many of you are spending all your time daily lusting after the attractions of this world, let us not forget that Yah said in 1 John 2:17 that this world is passing away. And the lust of it, and the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. This world is passing away, and everything that is in the world, and the lust of the world is passing away too. And it says, and only he who does the will of Yah will abide forever. That's all that matters. It's what you do for Yah is what matters. Nothing else matters. No matter what they try to tell you, no matter what's going on in your life, nothing else matters but Yah. That's it. That's why Proverbs 27:20 says, hell and destruction are never satisfied. So the eyes of man are never satisfied. I'm going to read that again. Proverbs 27:20. Hell and destruction are never satisfied. So the eyes of man are never satisfied. Destruction is never satisfied. It's never satisfied with the amount of people that it wants. The world will have you chasing and lusting after the things of this world, and no matter how much, for some people, no matter how much you get, no matter how much you attain, no matter how rich you get, it's not enough. The rich keep getting richer. They're rich, they're millionaires, they're billionaires, they're zillionaires, they got all this money, and it's not enough. While there are people who are poor and don't even know how they're going to eat their next meal. You over here a billionaire, and it's still not enough. They still thinking about ways to get more. More. Just like these greedy Christian pastors that I'm so upset with. And our people sit there taking it in, hook, line, and sinker. They're so greedy. That's why the Bible says that the love of money is the root to all evil. Money is not evil. It's the love of the money. The lust of the flesh. The lust of the eyes and the pride of life. I deserve this. I want my greatest life now. My purpose-driven life. I deserve this. See, this is what they tell you when you self-confident, self-esteem. I deserve this. You don't deserve anything. The only reward that the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life can give you is reward of death. That's the only thing. That's all Satan has to offer you. When he takes these celebrities and shows them all the kingdoms of the earth, if they bow down and worship him, they don't realize all he's offering them is death because it's of the flesh. Stop spending all your time chasing after the things and the people of this world. Because it's vanity. It's fruitless. It brings nothing but death. Stop chasing after people and things and chase after Yah. I promise you, you will never be more fulfilled than when you finally know who you are and know who he is. There is no greater fulfillment that to abide in our Abba Yah and his son, Yeshua. You will be more fulfilled than you have ever been in your life. He who hungers and thirsts after him shall be fulfilled. You will hunger and thirst no more. And it will be something that will quench your thirst that's greater than food or water ever can be. So my plea today is for everyone that's listening, because I'm done, is to truly take in what has been presented to you today. Today's lesson was not long. It was simple, but it was straight to the point. Examine yourself and see if you be in the faith. Test the spirit that's operating in you and see if it be of Yah. Measure your walk according to the word of Yah. Have you been committing idolatry? Have you been lusting in the flesh? Have you been lusting of the eyes? Have you been running after the pride of life? Have you bought at one point in time into the doctrine, the world's doctrine of having self-esteem, self-respect, self-confidence, trusting in self, trusting in your own ability and power to sustain yourself, esteeming yourself? Prina, you can come in. Your thoughts on today's lesson?
Well, this was, praise be to Yah first, definitely a well-needed lesson, and, especially just breaking down the definitions, which is always, I say, is pivotal for us to understand the context and what, the scriptures are saying. But what really the takeaway is, dealing with self in the pride area, especially self-confidence, self-esteem, and self-respect. And I think that, and I say that because, not because I'm a proud person. I'm very humble, but, I bought into the confidence and the self-esteem
we
and the low.
Did.
Yeah, because, you know, you think, like, if you think lowly of, you know, if you don't think of yourself, if you don't put yourself, then, you know,
in a high regard. Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't look at being humble is, you know, is what Yah require us. We just look at, we need to build ourselves up, because you tell your students that, you know, and or women that think low of themselves, you know, from, you know, whether not having a father figure in their home, or whether they have issues with, you know, how they look or their appearance. We you know, we buy into that, build your self-esteem up. And, you know, but then that comes into, like you said, exalting yourself above Yah. And so, with that being said, I truly took in the heart, you know, with the lessons that you presented, with the, you know, the lust of the eyes and the lust of the flesh and the pride of life. And I think, you know, a lot of people can learn just from this lesson to really take a good look at themselves, to see where they fall in the spectrum of, you know, because a lot of times when you are believers and walking and changing your ways with Yah, you know, He reveals little things over time to you, or the things that you need to continue to work on and change. And so I think this is a good lesson to, you know, self-reflect, to continue to self-reflect, not, you know, thinking haughty that you made it and you all of this in a bag of chips. So I really, truly love the lessons and all the, you know, the stories, especially with, you know, Eve and Yeshua, and how Satan used those three things, and he used it with everybody.
No matter who you are.
Yeah, he used it with everybody. It's just when you have to recognize him when he at your door. You know, and so this was definitely a good lesson. The definitions really help, you know, to make the lesson stand out, and just the examples that you gave in every area to help the listeners understand how these things, you know, these three temptations operate, and some, you know, the examples that go along with it. So I say Todah Yah is well needed, you know, as with all the lessons that you've been given, that Yah has been given to you. So I mean, I don't know what better way to examine yourself before it's too late. You know, and because it's a constant, you got to constantly examine yourself, and you constantly growing in this walk. You know, he probably worked on you one way, like he worked on me with lust, because that was a sin before I was coming in. So and you right. You know, to get over to some of these things, you have to fast and pray, and that's what I had to do. I had to fast and pray and turn myself from my ex-husband. Well, he's my ex-husband now, but I had to tell him, you know, this is something. This is it. This is where, you know, this is where I get off. And so if we're not married, then this is, you know, where I'm choosing. And so some things, because it was hard for me to just do on my own, and I realized that. And I wasn't in truth yet, but Yah showed me how to pray and fast over that. Because I mean, when I came into truth, because, you know, as I started coming into truth, that's because that was something I could not do on my own. That was a strong demon.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to recognize, you know, some things you just can't do on your own, and like drugs. Some drugs for people, you know, they have to resort and turn to Yah to be delivered from it. It's something that no methadone clinic or no clinic can help you.
Yeah, I know that's right.
Because they give you another drug to overcome the drug that you on.
Yeah.
So you're not really overcoming addiction. You're just becoming addicted to another type of drug.
Yeah, pretty much. You hit the nail on the head with that one. That's straight up.
You know, and so, you know, whatever you're struggling with or whatever Yah reveals to you, take heed to it. And if you need be, fast and pray, because that's your best tool of overcoming some of these sins, because some of these sins is just strong demons that's attacking you, and you have to overcome. And then you have to turn yourself away from those things that keeps you or going to bring those past desires back to the forefront. Because I'm not married right now, so when it's something on TV and it's love, hot scenes, I'm like, oh no, I can't watch this. You know, and I know
the
you
love
have
songs.
to recognize.
I remember you told me that, and also listening to love songs. Cause
yes, I like certain love songs. I'll click it real quick. But that's just something that I have to guard myself with. You know, and so I know how Yah has brought me, you know, as far as He has brought me and He's delivered me, and I do not want stronger demons to come, you know what I'm saying, come back, because I know what it took, and it took fasting and praying to overcome those things. It wasn't something simple, just, you know, like some people smoke a cigarette and they might put it down tomorrow and not do it ever again. No, this was something I knew that I couldn't do on my own. Yeah. And so just recognizing those things that are causing you to be an enemy of Yah, you know, and especially in this walk, because it's not time. It's time out for thinking you got it, or just because you know truth, this is it. No, you have to walk circumspectly before Him at all times, and you know, and just recognize Satan at work, and being, you know, cautious and knowing what you can and cannot handle, and allow Yah to do His thing, and just know that He is the one that's given us the breath and the strength to overcome some of these sins that we have partaken in our life.
Well said. Well, with that, on that note, we're going to end. And we want to thank you for joining us. We pray that this lesson was a blessing and will bless someone. If you know someone who could definitely use it, which we all can, please share this lesson. It will be available tomorrow, and we're going to allow you to lead us out with prayer.
Okay, and I'm reading from 1 Chronicles 29, verses 10 through 13 and verse 18. And David blessed Yah before the eyes of all the congregation. And David said, Blessed are you, O Yah, the power of Israel, our Father forever and ever. To you, O Yah, be the greatness and the power and the high esteem and the victory and the majesty. For all in the heavens and the earth belongs to you. O Yah, yours is the kingdom, and you lift up yourself to all as head. And the riches and the honor come before you, and you rule over all. And in your hand is power and might, and it is in your hand to make great and to give strength to all. And now, our power, we are giving thanks to you and giving praise to your high esteemed name. O Yah, the power of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, our fathers, keep this forever for the intent of the thoughts of the heart of your people, and prepare their heart toward you. In Yeshua's name, so be it.
Yeshua's name, so be it. And so we just want to thank you once again for joining us today on this beautiful Sabbath, and we pray that you will enjoy this day of rest and that all will be well with you, Yah willing. We will be back on, again, Saturday, November the 4th. And so with that being said, may Yah bless and keep you. May He make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May He lift up His countenance upon you and give you peace. In Yeshua's name, so be it. Shabbat shalom.
In Yeshua's name, so be it. Shabbat shalom.